Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name's Kit, and this is my world. Thank you very much for joining me. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing reading while on the spectrum. I'm on the spectrum. I was told maybe 20 years ago that I have Asperger Syndrome. I'm autistic. Now, the science is constantly evolving. It's possible that my place on the spectrum might have adjusted over that time. I don't know. I was confident and happy with the diagnosis that I was given. It made perfect sense. A lot of things became clear, and I've been living comfortably with that label ever since. But it's a very complicated and potentially hazardous area to discuss. So the caveat before I start anything on this topic is to say that I'm talking about my own personal experiences and my own personal opinions. I'm not an expert on anything. I know nothing. I'm just explaining to you how I feel about certain stuff based on my personal experiences and the fact that quite a long time ago I was told that I have Asperger's as well as also bipolar, but that's a whole separate video. So let's get started. Being on the spectrum, in my experience, means that I struggle a lot with communication. I have spent my whole life feeling badly misunderstood and also feeling intensely frustrated at my own inability to interact with other human beings in any meaningful way and feel that the communication is going in both directions. It's been a huge problem for me throughout my life. It led to me becoming a hermit for the better part of 20 years. And prior to that, I was never able to sustain friendships in any meaningful way for any length of time because there was a disconnect. There was a social disconnect and a communicative disconnect, which made me feel like an alien. I've discussed this, I think, a few times in other videos, but and I've certainly discussed it in conversations with other booktubers who I've become friends with recently. I feel like an alien. I'm on this planet, but I'm not of this planet, and in my alien life thus far, I've spent most of my time trying to masquerade as a human, and this is not a very fun thing to do, and it's very exhausting. I've learned through observation to mimic human behaviour to a greater or lesser extent, and I can wear that mask for a limited amount of time, but then the mask slips and my behaviour starts to become odd to neurotypical people. They start to notice that I'm a little bit strange. My speech patterns are a bit off. My sense of humour is a little bit off. I tend to be very literal, and I tend to have lots of misunderstandings with people. And this leads to paranoia on my part and probably irritation on their part. So all of this, put in a reading context, means that I also struggle to connect with the voice of the author, which makes the author's voice the all-important thing that will dictate whether I'm actually able to get into a book or not. If I feel that their voice is too different from the alien language or the alien dialect that I think with, then there's going to be a disconnect and I won't be able to stay in the mood for that book. But also the characters in the book need to be compatible with my alien mind, I suppose. And the story needs to be something that my alien mind can comprehend and find interesting and relate to in some sort of way, even though when one relates to something or someone, it's because they're applying their own personal experiences and relating it to that other thing. My experiences happen on another planet. And my thoughts and feelings and everything are otherworldly. it's not the best analogy, but it's the only thing I can come up with. It's something that I've used in the past, and humans seem to understand a little bit what I'm talking about when I use the alien analogy. So forgive me if I sound like a nutter. My second question is, why are neurodiverse/neurodivergent people so underserved and treated with less respect in publishing than more, in inverted commas, popular differences like race or sexuality? This is something that has come into my consciousness very recently, and I've become aware of the fact that there are ND people out there writing books, and I don't seem to be coming across any of these books. I'm not seeing people reviewing them. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. Maybe I'm just not looking hard enough. But it feels that there aren't any books out there for people like me. And it's not so much to do with representation. I'm not saying that I want to see more ND people in books as characters, in the way that because I'm gay I might want to see more gay characters in books. Representation is a thing, and it's important, and I want to feel represented in the books that I read, of course. But I think what I mean is, I have slightly different speech patterns, and my brain works in a different way from typical people, and it would be nice to be able to read a book that is written more in my language, so that I don't have to work quite so hard to translate it and to understand and to interpret everything in human terms. It would be nice to find a book that's written in, if not my language, then at least my dialect, my natural dialect, my alien extraterrestrial dialect. I don't know if such things exist, but I'm starting to become aware of the fact that they are out there. They're just very, very limited and underserved. And I think it's because the publishing world is not yet woke to this thing. And ND people aren't being served and protected and nurtured in the way that now people of different races and different sexualities are starting to be served in publishing. But it's a very slow process, and it's full of it's a minefield. It's not easy. I understand it's not easy, but I'm just thinking, do I struggle with my reading more because I'm just not being given books that are written in a dialect that I can understand without it being such hard work? And that brings me to my third question: different voices. Neurodiverse/neurodivergent people do have different speech patterns and connect with writing differently. Is this why books can be harder for us to connect with? Or am I just imagining it? Am I making it up? But if that is the case, why are publishers still attempting to, in inverted commas, typicalize ND writing and make it more normal and less ND friendly? Isn't this no different than whitewashing? Now, the wording of that might be offensive. I'm not sure. I'm scared of this question. But I have recently been watching the most fabulous in-depth discussion by a magnificent booktuber called Jess Owens. If you haven't seen Jess Owens, check out her channel. She's marvellous, and she does really deep dives into things, and she puts all the pieces together in a way that I frankly don't have the time, the energy, or the concentration to achieve. But she does really good research. She makes good episodes. They're long episodes, about 45 minutes or so, and she really goes into the detail of this type of stuff. And she's recently done a couple of videos that specifically discuss this issue, and which have inspired me to make this video. It's my own little contribution to the conversation. It's not much of a contribution. I feel very unworthy and unqualified to be discussing this stuff. But Jess's video made my ears prick up. It made me pay attention because I connected with the subject, because it felt like she was talking about me, and I really understood it. And also I got quite fired up and emotional and passionate about some of the stuff that she was discussing. And I'm not going to try and regurgitate it now because I won't do it as well as her. Just go and see her channel, look at her videos. There's a part 1 and a part 2. It's interesting, it's informative, and it asks really good, tough questions. But I just wonder, is the publishing world being ableist? I think they are. I got quite angry about the way the publishing world was treating one particular author, and to me it seems painfully obvious that the publishing world, at least in this example, is very ableist. And that's a bad thing, and I feel now discriminated against in a way that I've always been discriminated against but hadn't been aware of. Now, thanks to Jess Owens enlightening me, I'm aware of yet another way that I'm being discriminated against, and I don't like it. I have a different mind, a different brain. I'm considered disabled by my government, who have done tests on me, and probes and things. I'm not going to talk about the probes, but I have been studied and analysed and tested thoroughly and found to be disabled, which is a label that I must now live with. Personally, I was actually quite happy with that label because I kind of knew that there was something wrong anyway. When I finally got my diagnosis, the bipolar diagnosis came first and then the Asperger's diagnosis. When that finally happened, everything clicked and I knew better why I am the way that I am. But now I don't like the fact that I'm being discriminated against by publishers, and I'd like them to change. I would like them to wake up and understand that people from my planet also want to be able to enjoy books, please. So that was my pretty shallow and unimpressive first dive into this topic, and obviously I don't feel that I've done it justice at all. I just wanted to add something to the conversation. I'm not sure if I've succeeded in that or if I've just wasted everyone's time, but I wanted to shout out Jess Owens and say thank you, Jess, for doing what you did and making me aware of this thing, and hopefully the conversation will continue. As the conversation continues, hopefully I will have more to say about it, hopefully more intelligent and thoughtful things to say about it. This, although being on the spectrum is not a new thing for me, and I can talk about being on the spectrum quite confidently from my own personal experiences, applying it to the theatre of publishing and the publishing world, that's a new thing for me, and I haven't given it very much thought at all. So I'm going to go away and give it some more thought, and I have nothing else to add at the moment except to say that this subject is now genuinely interesting me and perplexing me and making me want to study more and understand more, and have more of a voice in this conversation. And on that note, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you haven't already, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, share, do all the good stuff, and I will see you next time. See you later.